Hello everyone, welcome back to the Nerds Entertain Podcast, and today we'll be looking at Tremors 3, Back to Perfection. And if you guys, most of you I'm sure aren't familiar with what we do here, so I'll do a brief little summary, do an overview of the cast, then I'll get on to my rant/review of the movie. Alright, time for the brief summary. So, it has been 11 years since a tremor, or a graboid, since a graboid has been back to Perfection Valley. We kick off with Burt Gummer, still played by Michael Gross, in, I presume, what is somewhere in Mexico, killing a horde of shriekers that were that got loose. And then he comes back to Perfection. We're introduced to some returning cast members from the previous from Tremors 1, but we'll get to that when I get to the cast reading. So we go back to Perfection. We're introduced to Desert Jack, who is running a scam tour business by pretending that there's a graboid chasing customers. We're introduced to Jody Chang, who's now running the Chang Market in Perfection. They went all in on the tourist trap part, selling graboid action figures, toys. If there's something there, you name it. So, we kick back up, and the graboids have returned to Perfection Valley, and they go to Burt Gummer with the help of Desert Jack and some of the other townspeople. Sorry about that, I thought someone was at my door. Go to kill the graboids. The feds show up because Nancy called them, and so they let the feds do their things. The feds have more than they could bite. They get killed. Michael Gross goes on a rampage. We're introduced to the third life cycle of the graboids, called the Ass Blasters. Yes, that is their actual name. We'll get to that during my rant. And they find a way to kill all the Ass Blasters. And we end the movie with them, with Jody riding off into the distance with Michael Gross with Desert Jack, and Burt Gummer leaving Melvin, who is now a real estate tycoon on top of a rock surrounded by El Blanco. And we'll get back to El Blanco in 1 second. Now to the cast. So, the returning cast members of the movie is Miguel, played by the same cast member, Tony Guarino, Nancy, played by Charlotte Swart, Michael Gross, played by Burt Gummer, and those are the only returning. Oh, and Robert Jane, who's also Melvin. Those are the returning cast members. We're introduced to Desert Jack, played by Sean Kristen, and a grown-up Mindy, played by Ariana Risserge. Who also played Mindy in the first Tremors movie. So all those are the returning cast members. So it is a big return to the cast, but sadly, I'm pretty sure most of them are replaced in the TV show by other actors besides Michael Gross. So Michael Gross is the only one that comes back besides Melvin. I think the Robert Jane, who's Melvin, does come back in the TV show. But we'll get there when we do talk about the TV show eventually. So, now with all that out of the way, let's go on back to my rant. Blah, 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 blah. So, with my rant. The Tremors 3 scored a 80% with critics and a 36% with audience members. It's still a sci-fi horror movie now instead of a horror sci-fi. Because I am pretty sure that this is sort of the turning point. Hold on, I think someone's at my door. Let me go see. I'll be right back. Go and check. Nope, no one at my door. Sorry about that. I'm gonna leave that in for authenticity chat. But anyways, sorry about that. Back to my rant. Where was I? Completely forget. But anyways, back to my rant. So, oh yeah, 80% critic rate. Yeah, I remember where I'm at now. So, it's a sci-fi horror movie. I think this is sort of the part of the movie where they stop leaning towards horror and start leaning more to sci-fi action, in my opinion. The TV show, I feel like, still is sci-fi horror a little bit, because I feel like it does have some what would be scarier moments. But it is still sci-fi first, horror second type of deal. And this is sort of the last stop before it goes straight sci-fi action, in my opinion. But anyways, but I do like to say, in universe, you have to think how terrifying these creatures are with their new cycle of life, which is kind of the last stop on the cycle of life for graboids, give or take some additions, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So, the new cycle of life, like I said in the intro, was the new dubbed creature by Jody Chang, and Tremors 3 is the Ass Blaster. So, the Ass Blaster is roughly the same size as Shriekers, but a little bit more longer, more narrow, with fins, and they fly. Actually, that's false. They don't fly. And I think either this Tremors 3 or one of the other Tremors movies, they do say that excuse me, sorry about that, just ate. The Ass Blasters don't fly, but they glide. So, in their hind quarters, or in their rear, or their ass, however you want to call it, they hold two chemicals. I forget exactly what those chemical words, but there's two chemicals that they mix together, releasing a ignition that allows them to blast off into the sky and come gliding around as much as they can. And just like the Shriekers, they are blind, they can't hear noise, but they only hunt by thermal vision, using their heat-seeking organs on top of their head. And that brings the end to the graboid life cycle. So it goes Graboid, like Desert Jack says in the movie, Graboid, Shrieker, Ass Blaster. Because Ass Blaster carries eggs inside of itself, and I think they assume that. So the Graboids live. not exactly sure how long. I don't think there's a timetable set to from when egg to when they metamorphize, as Gummer says in the movie, to Shriekers. How long it lasts, but I'm pretty sure it's a couple months, maybe, before they get big enough, eat enough food to morph into the Shriekers, and the Shriekers, I think if they're left alone for more than 24, 25, about a day or two, that they shed their skin like a sort of like like a giant snake. They molt out of their skins into a ass blaster, and the ass blaster has an egg in it. And they assume how it worked is they would fly up into the air, maybe hunt for some food when they can, but when they would fly into the air, they would glide great distances to deliver a grabloid egg to somewhere else to spread out their population. I know on YouTube, if you're to search it up, I'm not sure who it is. Let me see if I can look it up right now. But there is a YouTuber that, or a YouTube video at least, that I watched that explains the. Oh yeah, here it is. So he's a really big channel compared to me because I'm tiny. I literally get like 3 views an episode. So please like, share with everyone you know, because I would love to be able to talk about this more, make this my full-time gig, so I have nothing to do but talk about movies, review movies, rant on movies, and give people my opinions on the crazy things I believe in. Ha 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 ha, like movies. But, the Roanoke Gaming has a whole series on Grabloids and their evolution and how their life cycle works and how he believes they would. It's a 3-part series. I don't think he has more besides that. It's a 3-part series where he sort of just explains what he believes they did, how they survived, the reasoning for each life cycle, like why they would evolve into these creatures. He has some really interesting theories about it and why they did it. So honestly, I would recommend watching his videos, his 3 videos about the Grabloids, the Shriekers, and then also the Ass Blasters. It's really, really interesting. Like, oh my god. Just go watch that. I can't do any of his videos justice right now. So go watch them after you watch this. Or listen to this mostly. You can't watch it for now. Until I get better quality tech. Or, a real computer. But anyways, sorry about that. Back to my rant. So that brings the end of the Grabloid life cycle for now, until the introduction to, I think, some variations of it later. But that is sort of the end of the life cycle. In this movie, they do kill off a main character, which is, other than the Desert Jack's friend, some other people, they do kill off a comeback character, which is Miguel. They do kill off Miguel in this movie, which is sad to see a comeback character die in one of these movies. Foreshadowing! But anyways, they do bring in a host of new actors and characters to the TV show, and I'm starting to think I might do the TV show before I do the other Tremors movies. because I don't think a lot of people cover the TV shows. A lot of people that even do like Tremors don't know, or that aren't obsessed like I am, or whoever likes Tremors are obsessed. But some casual viewers of the Tremors franchise actually doesn't know there's a TV show. So I'll probably cover that TV show to hope it gains traction to let more people know about the 13 episode TV show. And today, when I'm uploading this and editing stuff, I will ask some of my friends whether, and mull it over in my brain whether they would. I don't know if I want to do 13 podcasts on every episode of the Tremors TV show, or if I'm just going to do maybe one really long episode on all 13 episodes. I'll mull it over. If anyone who listens to this actually hears it, please share it around Tremors community and see if they would want to actually 13 different podcasts from me, doing a brief summary of the episode, the cast review, and for the TV show, I'll probably just do one cast review until introductions to new characters, or more important characters. But I'll probably do it once. But it's basically just going to be probably a 20-30 minute rant per episode, like I normally do for movies. And it's going to be me, blah, blah, TV show, what's good about it, what's bad about it, like I do with everything. Now, talking about that, so a lot of audience members didn't like this movie, and I can see why. This is sort of where they do use practical effects to get side shots, to get they actually create a few ass blasters, a few shriekers. I think they do a graboid once. They do practically cut out Michael Gross from a graboid from the ground, which is really, really cool. That's a really good practical effect. But they also do CGI, and the CGI does look a lot better in this movie. Of course, there is moments where you're like, ugh! But really, the CGI effect actually does give the practical effects sometimes a run for its money in this, in the movie. The CGI gets a lot better in this movie. But I'm still sad that this is the sort of the end of practical effects for now, for a little bit. They do use practical effects here and there, just like a scale model shot, a piece of its beak, or like a tongue or whatever. But they start using CGI more and more and more and more and more, to the point where, like, I think they start where they just only do a full CGI monsters to make them look bigger, badder, more evil, not evil, but menacing. Which sort of sucks. I don't mind CGI, but I praise practical effects every chance I get. Even if they're not that good practical effects, I would rather have a movie with okay practical effects than watch a good CGI movie. I know that says a lot about me as a person, but that's just my beliefs on practical versus CGI. I'm going to rant about this every time. Every one of these movie reviews, I'm going to rant about how they just corrupted the Tremors franchise with CGI. But anyways, this has some good moments, but this brings me to one of my things that annoys me so much about the TV show. But I'm going to talk more about that in the TV show when I do the TV show episode. But this is the start to one of my problems. This is sort of when they start stereotyping Bert. I know he was a stereotype to begin with. I've said that every episode, that Bert Gummer is a stereotype to begin with. But this is when they make him more paranoid, more crazy. And like I said, that's a good thing. This shows that Bert Gummer is riddled with graboid PTSD. But he is a veteran at this point of Graboid hunting, Graboid veteran. But they still make him seem like a crazy guy for wanting to kill these Graboids. And my biggest problem in the movie, and the movie would have ended like 20 minutes earlier, or maybe even 40 minutes earlier, we wouldn't have even known they were ass blasters in this movie if it didn't come down to one person. Whew, and that person being Nancy. Oh my lord. I'm going to call her out so much through the TV shows, but right now I'm going to bring out my biggest problem with her in Tremors 3 Back to Perfection, which is Burt Gummer goes back to town. Actually, Miguel wouldn't have died if it wasn't for Nancy. And that's a hot take right now, and that is my take. I don't care if people don't like me for that, but that is my take. Miguel would have not died if Nancy didn't call the feds on Burt. That's right. Burt Gummer, who's anti-government, and everyone knows he's anti-government. Nancy decided to call the government on Burt from stopping to hunt the Graboids. Like, ¿por qué? Like, ¿por qué, Nancy? ¿Por qué? Why you call? I don't understand. Because, oh my gosh. So, he goes back to town. He gathers up Miguel, Desert Jack, I think that's it. I think that's everyone he gathers up. Yeah. Oh yeah. With the help of supplies by Jody Chang, but he gathers up 3 guys, each of them have a truck. They start a convoy to go out, and they're going to use the same trick they use in Tremors 2, which is strap a bomb to the back of freaking RC cars until a Graboid bites it, and because there's only 3 of them. There's only 3 Graboids. 2 no names and El Blanco. And we'll get back to the importance of El Blanco in a little bit after I'm done with this little tirade. But freaking Nancy calls the feds on Burt Gummer to declare them an endangered species. Like, that immediately she regrets it because they are going to declare oh my gosh, sorry. Whew, let me calm down for a second. Because they were going to call eminent domain on Perfection Valley because it's a Graboid hotspot. And she didn't know that. But Burt Gummer said they're going to declare eminent domain on us. And they will, as they do in the movie, where they say they are, unless they catch a sleeping Graboid, which is they don't, because they get killed by Shriekers. Whew! So, that's only the start of my tirades on Nancy. But, that's the end of that for now. That just annoyed me. And Miguel would have been saved, and all the Graboids would have been dead if she just let Burt Gummer do his thing, kill all 3 Graboids. Alright, now to El Blanco. So El Blanco is a giant white Graboid, and he's white because he's albino, and that's why they call him El Blanco. And since he's albino, meaning I'm not actually sure if being an albino creature makes you infertile. I'm pretty sure that isn't a thing for everything, but in the movie they do treat it as that. Since he is albino, that makes El Blanco infertile, meaning he will never morph into Shriekers. He's a Graboid forever. Which is really interesting, and they do talk about on the TV show a lot, about how that might change how one interacts. And El Blanco's a main stage in the Tremors TV show. He's actually a recurring character as much as Burt Gummer in the TV show. Which is nice and fun, because it shows you how they interact with him on a day-to-day basis. But he also is used because Nancy called the feds as an excuse for all of them to stay there. And for Melvin is a subplot in this movie. Basically, he's a land tycoon that's trying to buy up Perfection Valley and turn it into a giant suburbia, basically. And at the end of the movie, they keep El Blanco alive, and Burt Gummer, they talk about it on the TV show, so I'm not going to go into how they survive them. The Burt Gummer talks about a little bit that they have motion trackers and the whole 9 yards. But basically, they keep El Blanco alive because as long as El Blanco alive, Perfection Valley is basically a nature preserve, and all of them are living on it. So they're part of the nature preserve to not only keep El Blanco safe, but to keep people that come into Perfection Valley also safe. Because even though they do run businesses out of there, and that's why people do come, is to see the tourist trap that is Perfection Valley. So it's sort of like this thing, the only reason people come is because it's out there. But people would come anyways to try to take a look at basically a scientific phenomenon that would never be before seen. And what the funny thing is, I always question about the TV show, and I know why he didn't do it, that Burt Gummer didn't take a job with the feds, because they would immediately sign him out of there and put him in some sort of anywhere else. But I feel like the government should have offered Burt Gummer a job as Perfection Valley Ranger to basically become the law of the land of Perfection Valley and basically the keeper of El Blanco. But they don't give him that title. I feel like they did give him that title. A lot of trouble would have been saved in the TV show. But that's not about the TV show. Whew. Alright, so back to my tirade, my rant about Tremors 3. Tremors 3, is it better than Tremors 2? Well, this is sort of the final new story beat of Tremors. It is sort of the same thing where it's not like Tremors 2 at all, where other Tremors movies are. Tremors 3 is sort of like Tremors, the first one, where monsters are running muck in Perfection Valley and stuff for the people in Perfection Valley to stop the monsters. It has some of the same story beats on roofs, planning phases, kill the monster, Burt Gummer wins, And that is sort of the story beat after a while in the Tremors movie. But for right now, even though it is the same story beats, it is fresh and new because it's a new monster. There's new ways to try to avoid it, and there's funny ways to beat them. Like the Ass Blaster, unlike the Shrieker, it doesn't multiply as it eats, as seen in the movie where they think the Ass Blaster, if it eats a lot, it's going to spew out another Ass Blaster. But in reality, if it eats enough, they go into a coma, and I'm pretty sure they go into like this weird food coma for some reason. I'm not sure why. They go into this food coma, but they don't know that. So there's a part where Burt has all of his MREs in his side basement, and an Ass Blaster breaks in. They go out through the escape tunnel, and he blows up his fortified house because he thinks that if that one Ass Blaster eats all his MREs, that's going to turn into like 100. But in reality, if he didn't blow up his house, the Ass Blaster would have just fell asleep from eating the MREs. Which is a funny part of the movie. And this is sort of where I know the Tremors franchise basically always was a comedy, had comedic bits, had funny bits, but this is sort of the turn where it stops taking itself very, very seriously and starts relying more and more on jokes and characters. being funny and or like saying catchphrases. Basically, this where it starts to become cheesier, but not full cheese yet. Just cheesy enough for us to go, that's some good cheese. Unlike other Tremors movies, where if you were to watch them, you'd be like, "Oh God, that's too much cheese." Like I'm becoming lactose intolerant just looking at that cheese. But in my opinion, Tremors 3 is still worth the watch. It's still a good movie. It doesn't stray off its patch much. It hasn't become to the point where you go, okay, that's enough. Calm it down a little bit. It's still funny to watch. Fun to watch. It's still mindless action. And of course, we get some new laughs. We get some new character development. But this sort of last time, even Burt Gummer is treated like a real person and not a stereotype. Even in the TV show, they sort of keep him at this stereotype level, but they sort of gain and lose that stereotypistness throughout the franchise. He becomes more like paranoid, less paranoid, depending on the movie. But Tremors 3, he is paranoid enough where you go, that's Burt Gummer, you know. And in the TV show, they do kick it up one notch with all the characters on how they act, which I'm 100% okay with, you know. Every character sort of, after a while, devolves into a characterization of themselves if the TV show or the movie franchise goes long enough. That's what happens. But that's not my problem with it at all. And my recommendation is go watch the movie. It's still a really good movie. There's nothing really wrong with this one. Honestly, I had more criticism of Tremors 2 Aftershocks, but in all honesty, all the first 3 movies are great. They're good. It's a trilogy that is worth the watch. And I know it's a 7-part series with a 13-episode TV show, but the first 3 movies are really, really good. And even if is any hate, which I don't believe, about the first 3 TV shows, don't listen to them. It's a good TV show. Go watch it. And that is my rant on the topic. So, did I leave any hints to the next movie? I don't think so. So this is a Nerd Entertain Podcast.